You know me. I hate using the brown word, but Serial Mom makes me so happy I could shit. The mainstream began flirting with John Waters and his outlandish misfit troupe around 1988 with Hairspray, and then Crybaby would follow after that, and then Serial Mom after that. This was an interesting point in John Waters' career where he started to outright challenge normies, get into the normies' own safe spaces, and kind of show them, make them laugh at their own idiocy. Because Serial Mom, above all else, is a brilliant satire, not only of crime obsession, of true crime obsession, and obsession with criminals and that sort of thing. I think much more it's a brilliant satire of the status quo, of idyllic suburban life, of cookie-cutter life, of Leave It to Beaver life. And if John Waters is an expert on anything, it is filth, and it is picturesque 50s idealized American forms. And that's what Serial Mom is going after here. And Kathleen Turner gives one of the best comedic performances of all time here. She's absolutely incredible. She has so much moxie. The woman is absolutely pitch perfect, amazing. This might be the most genuinely funny John Waters film ever made. It holds up incredibly well. Made in 1994, it is still just as funny, just outlandish, just as insane and absurd as it was back then, and Kathleen Turner is a huge part of that. I don't know how she pulled off doing this movie. I don't know how she pulled off making every single line, mining every single joke for all of its creative, filthy, trashy, and melodramatic worth. It was a brilliant performance, and Kathleen Turner should be immensely respected for the work that she did in this film. I love her work in this film. It was absolutely incredible. Pussy Willows, Dottie. Pussy Willows. Oh my god, like I want to get that tattooed like right here on my arm or something, or I will get you, pussy face. It is just such a hilarious film, and Kathleen Turner, wow, the star power and the performance ability, that the comedic range of that woman, one of the top 5 comedic performances of all time, absolutely no questions asked. John Waters also takes Serial Mom and uses it as a platform for homages to Herschel Gordon Lewis and David Friedman, specifically Blood Feast. Not only do the characters in the film reference that movie, or like Matthew Lillard and his friends actually watch the movie, the part with the sheep's tongue, of course. The gore itself reflects the film that they were watching. So even then it's a satire of life imitating art, or violent films make people violent. It's a cutting satire on that. It's a biting one. It's amazing. It's very incisive. It's very smart. It's incredibly smart, incredibly melodramatic. Because like she gets a guy in the back with like a fucking like fire iron or something, like a fucking fire poker, and she has to pull the liver off of the blade, and that is entirely a nod to Herschel Gordon Lewis and Blood Feast. And of course there are other influences of John in there. Not only do we have the punk band L7 making an appearance as Camel Lips, amazing name. That name should be adopted by a true, actual punk band because it's an incredible name. We also have Joan Crawford appearing in devious roles as well. This is really, like I said, it's invading the normies' safe space, and you can't do a Pink Flamingos if you're trying to genuinely disturb the status quo, disturb normies. Of course, Pink Flamingos challenges the status quo, but normal people would never go out to see it so long as all these myths and word of mouth are going around about blown out assholes and eating dog shit. But Serial Mom, Kathleen Turner, Sam Waterston, Ricky Lake, let's go see that. And you cannot sit there and tell me that normal stay-at-home moms and aged housewives weren't rooting her on for murdering Patty Hearst for wearing white shoes after Labor Day. And that's another great thing. At the trial itself, John Waters used to go to trials all the time. In fact, he went to Patricia Hearst's trial. He used to go to trials all the time. He was obsessed with the spectacle that popular American crime fell into, the spectacle around it, the circus around it, the carnival around it, because if nothing else, John Waters is a ringleader of very specific kinds of misfits, and going to trials, specifically Patty Hearst's trial, is certainly an extension or an expression of his function, his role within misfit circles, within misfit groups. And at the trial, it's cool because it immediately sets up a dichotomy with two different cameos, meaning two completely different things. I think it goes along with entering Suburbia's house and being allowed to mock it and openly satirize it, because you have the cameo from Patty Hearst that I mentioned, and you also have Suzanne Summers. So there's a dichotomy there of the kind of the holy and the profane. In Suburbia's eyes, Suzanne Summers is holy and Patty Hearst is profane. And when John is able to make Suburbia, make normies, make average people kind of blur those two lines, those two different levels that separate what is acceptable within a reasonable society, then he's actually challenged the status quo in a completely meaningful way, in one of the most meaningful ways possible, by making you forget that there's even a status quo at all, because everything is so absurd, because suddenly it's a spectacle. And it's absolutely incredible. So many great performances. Mink Stoll, of course, a John Waters regular, and Suzanne Lowe. They're all incredible in this film. Yes, it does feel mainstream, but when you get down to it and what John Waters accomplished here, he incredibly successfully accomplished challenging the status quo, but this time he's sitting on the couch in the living room of the status quo, and actually gets the status quo to cheer on Kathleen Turner, to really just completely embrace this trashy superhero. The longtime costume designer for John Waters is truly an unsung hero of every John Waters film. His name was Van Smith, and I think it is in Serial Mom where his talents are kind of most noticeable, because it's nuanced and it's subtle, and well, it's both loud and quiet at the same time, if that makes any sort of sense. It is loudly satirical. It is kind of like it's far too suburban to be realistic, but at the same time there are subtle, nuanced, kind of trashy motifs and elements within the costume design and within the set design as well. If you look closely, there's perversions everywhere within this kind of slice of normal American life, or desired American life, really, because that's what you're supposed to desire. That's what the status quo wants you to desire. I think these films are incredibly important, and Serial Mom, in my opinion, is one of his best films, a top 5 or a top 4 John Waters film. And it's an odd choice to place so high on the list, but I think so far as his mainstream films are concerned, and I'm talking of Hairspray, Cecil B. Demented, Cry Baby, A Dirty Shame, Pecker, Serial Mom is better than all of those films. It's the best of this mainstream-ish period of John Waters' career. And with all those films, he still maintains his integrity, and he's still zeroing in on a specific sort of thing. They're more openly satires, but he's still challenging the status quo. It's just by asking to come inside first, rather than kicking the door down like he would do in, like, Female Trouble, Pink Flamingos, Multiple Maniacs. It's not about kicking the door down anymore. It's about being invited inside by the family patriarch or matriarch, and then completely lampooning their entire social life, the constructs that make up their fictive worlds, and hopefully changing them on account of that, because it's impossible not to root for Serial Mom. It's impossible not to find this film absolutely hilarious from beginning to end, and not to find her some sort of, a feminist hero, a feminist icon. And yeah, I keep going back to Kathleen Turner, just incredible performance, a comedic performance for the history books. And that's not hyperbole, that's stone cold fact. She's a genius, she's a comedic genius, and this film is really my main evidence in support of that grand statement. Serial Mom is amazing. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Zachary Conan. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy content like this. I like to cover art house films, philosophy, politics, and trash. Mostly just movies, really. And Serial Mom, even if reviewing it as just a movie, even if reviewing it as not a sort of kind of like punk rock statement, a punk rock challenge of the status quo of normality, or I think it's also an empowering film for stay-at-home mothers and aging housewives. Even if we don't view it as that, just as a simple movie, on a very basic, superficial level, it is one of John Waters' most entertaining and seamless films. Because there's often issues with pacing with a lot of his films, and Serial Mom is just kind of perfectly structured for a John Waters film. It is incredibly well structured. You don't want anything to end. Nothing feels long or extraneous. It's his most, it's probably his most well-made movie, really. Of course, my favorite of his is Pink Flamingos, and I also love Female Trouble and Desperate Living. But I think Serial Mom might come in at, no, because Polyester before. Serial Mom is number 5. Serial Mom is number 5, and it's incredibly well made. It's very important. It's just that it falls in line with traditional thematics, traditional practices of filmmaking a little bit too much. But really, it is perfect. It is absolutely wonderful. I definitely love this film. Serial Mom. One of the best American comedies of the 90s, if not the very best American comedy of the 90s. Its only true competition being The Big Lebowski. Serial Mom is that smart, that sharp, that imaginative, and that magical, really. Long live Serial Mom. Fucking Pussy Willows, Dottie. Fucking Pussy Willows.